Hey guys, what's up to another episode of the Goodcast Show. So today is another episode that's been a long time in the running. We've been talking a lot about this, and finally the man of the hour is here. You would have seen him on TikTok stirring a lot of problems for particularly one, Dato' Ramanan, in very recent times, and he's been very vocal about the budget, the allocation that the Indians have received, and he's been vocal on many other issues. You can check him out on TikTok, Suthan, and believe me, you would enjoy all of his videos. I certainly do. So today, he's joining us today to share his opinion on the budget as well as other issues pertaining to the Indian community. He is currently the National Head of Communications for the Malaysian-Indian People's Party, or MIPP. So he's another guest from the Perikatan National Bloc, and we welcome him and we look forward to hearing his points. So welcome, Mr. Suthan. How are you, sir?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for bringing me to the show.
No worries, man. Thanks for coming. So you've been busy, very busy. You've been very vocal online. So I want to get to it. Particularly recently, I think your video has been even picked up by Malaysia Kini and all that. People have been talking about it. I've been receiving about it. In fact, people have been asking me, hey, so please ask him to come on your show. I say, okay, we'll try it. We finally here. So what is, bro, your main issue regarding the 130 million allocation to the Indian community mentioned in the latest budget?
Okay, so you have seen my video, and I think everybody did, right? A lot of Indians basically have problems with the allocation. The Indians, yet again, got a symbolic allocation. What was it? It was about 100 million Mitra.
30 million soft loan.
30 million soft loan to Swan. It's quite insulting, to be honest with you, yeah? It's a PR exercise more than an actual help to the community. What does this mean? Is the government really serious about helping the Indians, as they say? They champion Indians when they were in opposition, but 3 years in, doing budgets, we don't see any change in how they are helping the Indians. So I'm calling them out on that. That's all.
But interesting that you say that, because you have locked heads with Dato' Sri Ramanan, who's someone whom I know and someone who I think, in my opinion, is someone who has actually been one of the more active deputy ministers in terms of helping the Indian community. So why criticize him when he's the only minister who's actually doing something?
So, with Dato' Sri Ramanan, I'll be very honest with you, my criticism with him is nothing personal. In fact, I really have deep respect for him. He is one of the YBs that actually doing something for Indians, right? But while we say that, while we celebrate his progress, we cannot escape from talking about the gaps, right? He's working hard. He's always in the news. He's always busy. But is he working smart? When I say working smart, is he trying to do something to change the Indians? Let's talk about the things that he's currently doing. I think he's coming up with a lot of loans in Spain and all this kind of things. Amanah Ikhtiar, what are all these things in. Now, people support him will say, hey, this guy's actually giving up millions. But I'll say this. Number one, for aspiring Indian entrepreneurs, for example, number one, they can't even get it because they don't have the documents for it. Number two, if they actually can get it, is it actually a paddle to save them, or is it a weighing, what do you call?
Like a burden.
Burden.
Like an anchor to hold them.
Anchor that pulls them down into the sea. It's a loan. If they're given a grant, I agree with you, he's done a great job. But that's not it. Another thing that I didn't agree with is that on Dato' Sri Y.B. Ramanan, he was the ex-head of Mitra. He knows about Mitra's issues, right? The 100 million that they get is not enough for the Indian community. The current Mitra head, Y.B. Prabhakaran, also multiple times asked for 300 million for Mitra because they said the 100 million that's allocated is not enough. Knowing all this, when people are asking for 300, 500, 600, when the government just gave 100 million, he went there quietly and just said, thank you, the government is doing enough. I can take that. That's wrong. People have to be spoken. The leaders have to be spoken about this. But I'll give him props because at least he gave a comment. What happened to two other ministers? We have two more ministers. Number one is Y.B. Gobind Singh, the supposedly Indian minister for us. Total silent. Number two, what happened to our unity minister? Saraswati, Y.B. Saraswati. She's also super quiet. Is it fair for Indians to get 100 million when everybody else get billions? That's the question I'm asking.
Okay, but in the past, I would say 9 to 10 years, we've seen that 100 million has been the standard lah. I think only 1 year it went up to 145, if I'm not mistaken. But generally, it's been 100 million. So, are we the ones who are misleading ourselves in assuming or even hoping that the help will come from the government?
Okay. So, question we have to ask here. Yes, we are getting 100 million all this while. But does it mean that we always have to be quiet and just be grateful for the 100 million that we get? No, I don't think so. We cannot be accepting this particular status quo. It is not appropriate. Just because the government refuses to increase the allocation doesn't mean we keep quiet and just stay silent. It's time for us to push back and ask, give us the right and fair amount of allocation. That's all. Simple as that.
Okay, but you, in a previous video, you also responded to Dato' Ramanan because he responded to your video, sort of subtly he responded to it. And then you said, look, if you say that the allocations in other, say, MOE or MOH will also benefit the Indians, why don't you go and seriously go to these separate ministries, these separate grant givers and all that, and find allocation that amounts to 500 million? Okay? My question is, why 500 million?
You know, the Indians have been suffering for what, 68 years of serious neglect. It's like basically a cancer right now in the society. And from my discussions with many people, from my readings as well, with economists, with NGOs, with leaders, they say, even with ex-ministers as well, they say Indians require at least about 2 billion to 3 billion to basically uplift the government, to uplift the Indians. Now, if we are serious about uplifting Indians, then we have to think in that size of an ambition, right? We need 2 billions or 3 billions. If you're speaking of us getting a meager 100 million, that's going to take at least 25 to 30 years before we see any changes happening for the Indians. Or it might be too late, right? But if we get 500 million, which I think is possible, because Dr. Sri Najib gave us 1B prior to Amasa and everything. So I'm just asking half of that for Indians, which I think is very, very fair. I think we can get it done. So we don't need token Deepavali allowance. We don't need food basket. We don't need any of this. If they do us right, don't treat us like second-class citizens. Give us a fair allocations, develop us, and put us in the front as everyone else. That's all.
Okay, so then I want to get your input. Since you are the opposition and, there have been murmuring, of course, PN is vying to take over Putrajaya in the coming GE16. Mm-hmm. How would you, as the Indian component party in PN, use the 500 million that you have requested for the betterment of the Indian community?
Of course, this is personal to me. This is not coming from PN or MIPP. I do have an idea. First, 200 million. I think we have to be spent on education. We have to upgrade our Tamil schools. Most of our Tamil schools still look like Rumah Panjang from 1950s, man. So, upgrade the Tamil schools. Offer scholarships for our students. Improve our preschool up to tertiary pathway. We need this for Indian students. Fund STEM initiatives. And develop and retrain our teachers. Some of our teachers need retraining for them to be more helpful for our students. Next, 150 million. Grant this to our entrepreneurs. Give this in the type of grants and business incubators and see how they can tap in to Malaysia becoming the next big data center hub. So get our people to go into this industry, train them, give them grants, incentivize them to create jobs for other Indians as well. Next one is healthcare. A lot of Indians are sick. Especially in rural area. They don't have support, they don't have insurance. So establish clinics, establish support systems, see how we can even help those who are already sick and needy to get the help, for example, dialysis and whatnot. Next one is basically on social and culture. I think we should put about 50 million for this. Idea is temples. We have a lot of temples. But temples now only act as place that we go and just pray. But can it be also a community center? Where we can integrate cultural and heritage program, develop the infra for them to see how we can bring Indians back to our temples, not just to pray, but to also integrate culturally and also learn about our heritage. And the last 25 million or 30 million, use it for monitoring. I think and I know we always have issues when the money goes missing. So get a professional board to monitor this money, have an oversight board, build processes, optimize the bureaucracy. Like right now, we have a lot of red tapes when Indians are supposed to get money from Mitra. Look, last year's money still not given until this year. So you have to cut down on all this red tape, make it easier and accessible for the Indians to get this money, and ensure that every ringgit goes back to the community. If we do this right for about 4 or 5 years, I'm telling you, we'll see so many significant changes for the community.
Okay, I mean, I agree with what you're saying, but I just want to bring up another counter argument here. If we look at the allocations given out to, say, for example, for the Bumiputra community, in this case, the Malays, I think it was 2 billion. 2 billion was given out, right? But one thing that is not been mentioned by any of the politicians or any of the leaders is that the Malay community have agencies to handle the Malay community in every level. Okay, like whether it's kids or young adults, entrepreneurs, at different phases. We look at Mara, for example. They are a long-standing agency that has been there, that has been doing the work for the Malay community and entrepreneurs. All right, but Indians, the problem here, what I have maybe an issue with asking for why I don't think the 100 million is such a bad thing is for this, is because we don't have such agencies. If you look at Mitra, a lot of their programs are welfare-based. Right? Now, if you look at the Malaysian-Indian blueprint that you have even asked to, basically use that.
Reintroduce.
In that blueprint, it's mentioned that the 2 key problems with the Indian community is, number one, children in the B40 community, 45% of them have limited access to preschool. Okay, so meaning that when they go into the schooling system, they are at a disadvantage. They cannot read, they cannot speak the English or Malay, so they are at a disadvantage, right? The second thing is mentioned in the blueprint is that over 90% of Indian businesses in Malaysia are micro enterprises.
Okay.
That means we are not even in the SME sector. Another thing that mentioned is, out of the large businesses in Malaysia, Indians only hold 1.5% of the shares. So the problem in our community is that we do not have job makers. We do not have a proper channel to prepare our children for the next level of education. So don't you think that instead of pushing for the amount of 100 million, that leaders such as yourself should instead push for proper agencies to be handled? You see, just to add this point, when I was, in my previous job, I used to look out for grants for businesses and all that kind of thing. This is one of the basically financial support. There are many grants out there. Not only for race, like if you look at Cradle, if you look at all these, there are grants that is for a lot, and you can apply. It's not that difficult. But the issue here is that these grants are utilized predominantly by non-Indian businesses. I've even spoken to someone from Tekon who have said the Spumi, is it Spumi, the one, the Indian one? Year after year, it's never fully utilized. Amanah Saham, never fully utilized. So is the fault that we don't have the right attitude? And before that, don't you think we should have proper agencies to say, okay, this agency, your job is to ensure that local Indian businesses find export opportunities for them. Something like Matrade, right? Or even collaborate with Matrade. Another agency should be, okay, your job is to ensure that the education, the KPIs of the education of the Indian students is so here. Shouldn't that be the approach? Then maybe we can get more allocation.
I agree with you. What you say is correct and real. There is allocations. Many Indians are not taking it up.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say it's because we are lazy or because we do not want this. It's just that it's inaccessible for most of us. Like for example, for Mara, like you said just now, they are in every single state, in every single daerah and whatnot. Is Mitra like that?
No.
Mitra are currently just centered in Putrajaya. Recently, they started to build up coordinators in different states, which I really commend. It's a good thing. So hopefully, down the road, we'll see more of our programs, which are of course under Mitra and of course which are under agencies as well, go down to people, which I really hope will then bring in talented individuals to forward to pick up these things. We need better communications, and that has to come from agencies or people who are currently controlling these agencies.
You know, in another video that you posted on your TikTok where you shared a question to YB Prabha at a Mitra event, and you talked about how you are part of an NGO that uses public and private partnership, right? Which I completely support, because I think of one of the lessons I can take away from all the interviews I've done in this podcast with Indian leaders is that the current ruling system does not cater to Indians. Whether it's BN before or PH now, they don't. Okay,
right.
I think we are too small a vote bank for them to even care for. The idea here don't you think that we, especially the Indian leaders, should try to foster as much public to private partnerships to solve the problems that you have mentioned? And that even if you look at the previous budgets, right? I think it was Tan Sri Muhyiddin saying also, all these budgets, there is a huge involvement of the private sector. Why can't we use that same model for Indians?
It is not being developed right now. I think everybody is just thinking short term.
Yes.
And they're only thinking about getting grants and just pushing it to people. They are not trying to build these networks. I think if you go out there, these leaders who are currently in government, go out there, build these partnerships, right, with private sectors, public sectors, and push this out, I think we can get it. But nobody's doing it.
Definitely.
And I think that's a fair thing to say. We really need to get this done.
Yeah, definitely. So I want to go into Mitra because you have been also very critical of Mitra. Let's just go to it straight to it. Do you think Mitra is equipped to handle the Indian community?
The short answer for this, right?
No.
No. I firmly believe that we don't have the right foundation for it just yet. Now, think of Indians like a rocket ship, just waiting at the dock. We are trying to fly to Mars right now. So we need three things. Number one, we require coordinates. Number two, we require good amount of fuel. The third one is that we require good pilot. So now let me define this a little bit. First one, coordinates. Now, coordinates is basically an idea where we're going to go, a plan. So that's why I keep on telling that we don't have a plan. People throw us money, but there's no alatuju, and there's no specified outcome. We don't have that. But the National Indian Blueprint that was launched in 2017 had all that. Why can't we reintroduce and re-execute that? That's all I ask. Number two, good amount of fuel. Even if you have this blueprint, but if you don't have enough amount of money for it, we can't. We'll probably be halfway down the road and we'll be stranded. So I say, you know what? We require about 2 billion, right? And we have to look forward to bringing our entire community there. So people in the government have to pressure this government to ask for the right amount of funding. All right? And 100 million doesn't cut it. You know it. You know it. I know it. The government leaders know it. The Indian leaders know it. But they're not asking for it. So I say, put about 500 million. Put about 500 million in 4 to 5 years' time. We can see significant changes for our people in welfare, in healthcare, in economics, everything. But if you keep on putting 100 billion, that's going to take 25 years or 35 years. Brother, I'll be 75 by then. Probably dead. I would not be seeing our Indians developing. I don't want that. The third one is that we need to have leaders with vision. They must not think short term or and work without mandate. Most of our leaders who currently come in works on their own whims and fancy. They just are working based on what they like and what they don't like. Follow the blueprint. The blueprint had very good tangible ideas. Yeah. Right? Follow the blueprint. It's there. Get the mandate of it already has the mandate of the community. With the right fuel, a leader can basically execute it and bring our entire community forward. Simple. So that's what is lacking. So if you ask me now whether Mitra has that, I'll say no. Mitra get the fund, but it's basically like the blind leading the blind. They can't really execute what they say. And I think those people in power right now, they themselves know this.
What I'm seeing now in politics is that this new attitude, or maybe it was there before, but not so prevalent as today, maybe because of social media also. But we see more leaders sort of attacking each other as opposed to attacking the problem. So you are guilty of this too. I mean, recently we have the I can't remember what's his name, but he sort of, made a very racial statement and opposing the whole China incident. And then we had now the DAP youth chief also fighting against him, saying, he should be investigated. We have you, not attacking, but sort of going head to head with Dato' Ramanan.
Okay.
And also there was one thing that I think you asked YB Prabha, you asked him what was his plans in ensuring the development of the SJKT's infrastructure, student welfare and development, which is a very good question. Now, why do you look to Mitra to solve the problem when this is an MOE issue? Shouldn't we, instead of locking heads with our own leaders, go to the root of the problem, which is MOE, not Mitra?
Okay, so Mitra's mandate is on transformation, right?
Yes.
And I think it's fair game to also include the transformation of Tamil schools there, right? Because that is much neglected. I'm currently Secretary General of Majlis Lembaga Pengelola Sekolah Tamil, Malaysia. So I have a lot of heart for Tamil schools. I think as an agency, Mitra will have much more sway when they go and partner with MOE to speak about this, compared to me going as Smartterm. Especially now, since MOE got one of the biggest historic funding for building schools and repairing schools. So Mitra should basically take advantage of that and try to see what they can basically carve for Tamil schools in general. Not just for Tamil schools, but actually everything, from preschool all the way up to tertiary, scholarships and whatnot. If YB Prabha needs help, we are more than willing to help. Not just me, a lot of NGOs, Tamil NGOs as well. Like I say, it's not a matter of fighting with them. It's a matter of criticizing them to see where the gaps are. All right. Even with YB Ramana, as I told you, I'm not attacking him personally. I'm just filling up the gaps that I see. Simple as that.
Let's go to your blog now, which is PN.
Okay.
This is a more interesting one. You want to hear? Of course,
it's getting hot now.
Now, let's be honest. PN is, I think, Indian voters have become a bit cautious about PN. I think in the best show of this was in the KKB by-elections, where I remember your party president, Punithan, was saying that how he predicts that 40% of the Indian vote will go to y'all.
Okay.
But what happened was 70% of the Indian vote went to PH, a rise of 10%, right? And when they went on the ground, they asked the Indian voters, the answer was very simple, because of the handouts that are given by PH. That was the only reason, not because the leaders are good, no, just the handouts, right? Which is fair. So why should we Indians now look to PN and say, you guys are the ones who are going to take care of our well-being?
Okay, it's not about what you say on paper. It's basically about how you walk together with people. Like, for example, let's talk about KKB, like you just said. KKB, they promised a lot of allocations for our estate workers, homes and whatnot. Did you see that happening in the budget? Was that allocated? No, none. Bullshit, man. Same thing with every other elections as well. They'll promise many things, right? For example, Sungai Bakap as well, they'll promise they're going to rebuild the schools. I hope that happens. If it does happen, I really will commend it. But most times, it's just smoke screen. They'll just give you some mutton biryani and chicken biryani. They'll promise you everything and say, go and vote. And that's it. They will look after you after that. I think with PN, we are really serious about advocating against systematic inequalities, right? You must understand, PN is actually born from speaking against 1MDB when PN didn't really was serious on that.
Correct.
We are delivering change, not just for Indians, for all. Like, for example, do you know in Selangor by-election that happened last year?
Makota, is it?
No, the entire state.
Oh,
the state. In the manifesto, PN actually allocated 50 million just for Indian transformation in their manifesto. That was not given by PH. So I say, through collaborations right now with multiple parties, including PAS, Bersatu, with Gerakan as well, we are coming up with newer plans and newer strategies, basically on how we can advocate better for our community. So, yeah, I think it is fair game to say that PN is not what you think it is. It is not. It's actually parties that are coming together to champion each other communities, including Indian.
No, of course. But, of course, MIPP is now the Indian component in PN, and they have, of course, through you and, of course, your party president, you guys have been very vocal about your thoughts on PMX and the unity government, government. And you have brought up a lot of topics, especially in the area of policies and the moves governing the Indian community. But when PN rejected Urumai's entry, you and MIPP were silent. So why the silence when it came to this issue?
Sometimes, right, being the loudest voice doesn't bring the best outcome. Sometimes being silent might be more strategic. Okay, strategic silence can also be powerful. So, an enemy of your enemy is your friend, right? And likewise, I see parties like Urumai, even Muda actually, to be honest, as friendly components, friendly parties. We have sat down with with all of them. We have had teas together. We had shared notes. We have shared discussions as well. But to be honest with you, I think both of them are still going through a transformative milestones. Muda is having this transformation on the leadership. Urmi is still struggling with their what do you call registration.
Registration, yeah.
Right. So there's still a long way to go. But I think when he gets there, I think our leaders will be sitting down to see how we can partner with them. Let's see how it goes.
But then of course another thing that would happen again, which I mean, it's like what you said. But I think as a voter, what we want is not just words but action. The action must suit what your belief system. So of course, recently members of MIPP were involved in the, I wouldn't say protest, but the show of discontent towards what's happening in Bangladesh, especially towards the Hindus in Bangladesh, right? Now, in this case, of course, your deputy president was actually asked to go to the police to make a statement, right?
Correct, that's right.
But when I saw the pictures, I noticed one thing.
What's that?
He was alone there. I didn't see any members of Bersatu. I didn't see any members of PAS also condemning this issue. Okay, so how can we believe that PN truly has the Indian welfare or the Indian sensitivities in mind when they do not come together with the only Indian component party to support them in their, their opposition towards these issues?
Okay, again, we note, don't trust what you see on mainstream media. People from all parties in PN actually spoke on this issue. I was there actually with Brother Subra and also with Datu Satish and representing MIPP. But not just that, there was also people from DHPP, right? And Bersatu Bersekutu as well. We are all not wearing any of our uniforms because it's more like an NGO at the particular point. Okay, so but speaking about that was on ground. People on medias, do you know people like Wan Faisal actually condemned this on a global media, I think CNN if I'm mistaken. They actually condemned and said we need to give support and protect the minorities in Bangladesh. Wan Faisal spoke about this. The guy from the party they call racist spoke about Indians in Bangladesh. Now, let me ask you, why was there radio silence on the part of PMX and his government against the Indian brutality in Bangladesh? Why didn't you question that?
Because
not a single hood.
Yeah.
They went to Bangladesh, he met the guy, but there was not a single statement saying that he actually condemned it.
No, fair enough. I agree with that.
For a man who's globally outspoken on many, many issues, on many, many things, he did not even talk about that. So he didn't talk about people globally. It's not taking care of people in Malaysia. What does that say about that man?
No, let me just answer your question. I agree with that. That actually happened. I also logged, okay, this guy has gone to visit them, but there's no thing spoken about this. And I think it is easy for, and I'm not supporting him here. I'm seeing the issue from a pragmatic perspective. When you are in power, there are many considerations to be put. For example, like trade, bilateral trade, workers' exchange. There's a lot of issues to be concerned about. Now, we, from PMX's past actions, like the whole speech that he made, the way he answered that girl, the allocations and all this, it is easy to see that the current government does not have Indians at the highest priority. You can even watch some of my interviews, like the one I did with Vaidya Murthy, who clearly said that when he proposed that according to him, he's mentioned the interview, you guys can check it out, where he says that at earlier part of before he became Prime Minister, Anwar Ibrahim did not want an Indian party in PH. Now, when a man says that, I accept the fact that I'm not important in you. So why do I keep going to you and asking? It's like it's expecting a fish to climb a tree. Now, so as an Indian voter, I want to see what I don't see here. That's what I want to see. Then I'll vote for you because you are doing the things that I want. And if PN truly believes in the Indian vote, in the Indian people, then I'm expecting that because I do no longer expect anything from PH. I'll be very honest and blank with you because that's the way I judge a party based on its actions. So that's why I feel that's why I never questioned it. And to be honest, a lot of the guests I brought on my podcast have been very critical of Madani. But that's why what I want is I want to see what I don't see in PH in PN. That's that.
So I agree with you on that, and I hear you. Look at our efforts within PN. We have been advocating for change for Indians in partnership with people from DHPP, also from Bersekutu. We are talking about how we can bring Indians forward. We know that. I think right now the Indians are rotting behind while everybody else is moving forward. I do not want the same thing to happen when we are becoming leaders in PN. We'll bring the change.
But and this is just a thought that I have, is it fair for you to say that? Because there is one thing that I feel that perhaps, and I've also talked to this to, what's his name, the activist, Arun Dorasamy.
Okay.
And he brought it up. He said, when it comes to Indian leaders, the most popular is the TNT, Temple and Tamil School. Okay, TNT.
Okay.
Now, is it fair for you to say, and you even said this in your question to YB Prabha, to say that the Indians are backward? Because there is a substantial M40 and T20 group within our people.
Okay.
In the Malaysian-Indian blueprint, it's also mentioned that our earnings, we are the second, higher than the Malays even. So why are you portraying that Indians are so backward when we are not?
Okay. Now, here's the thing. This is the same question that everybody keeps pointing out when I say, we are asking for a bigger allocation. Say, look, Indians are going for concerts, man. We have money.
Indians are going for concerts.
Did you hear that? Did you see the kind of comments on social media?
I saw, yeah.
It's absurd.
Yeah.
The poor Indian is the one that we're looking and asking for allocation for. Not the guys who are going for A.R. Rahman concerts or and whatnot. No, not them. We want to help the ultra poor.
Okay.
These guys are staying in estates. This guy is staying by the rivers. This guy is staying in some slum somewhere. This allocation is meant for them, right? So people tend to question and think that, oh, no, this allocation is supposed to help this M40, T20 Indians who are going in the BMWs. No, it's not that. I'm trying to help the guys who can't afford to buy a bike, who can't afford to pay registration fee for their daughter who went to university. I'm trying to help a youth who can't find a job because he left school at Form 1. That's the kind of people we are trying to help. That's what the allocation is meant for.
So in that case, is it fair to say that you agree with PMX's removal of the revision of the diesel subsidy? Because
no.
he's doing it exactly for what you're saying.
Okay, so here's the thing. Let's speak more on that. I do agree that we have to remove subsidies, petrol and also diesel as well. But I think it has to be done in a staggered way, right? You have to not do it it's a surprise, boo. No, you cannot do that. Give time for people to adapt or be ready for it. The mistake that they did with the diesel was that they didn't give enough time for us to be ready. And every single industry, every single manufacturers got surprised and everybody started hiking up prices. I think if they done a proper job, put a proper mechanism, I think we could have got there. I think they are probably doing this right with the petrol. Yeah. Now they are giving us time for us to get ready. So I think by the time we get there, I think it should be slightly more better. I do agree removing subsidies is important because the country is paying a lot of money to basically keep these subsidies in place. And it is taking money, a big chunk of money away from money that can be used for developments. So if we can save that, yes, then we can spend more on developments. So, but we have to do it in a very pragmatic way. We cannot do in a very, just like giving a birthday surprise kind of a thing. Yeah.
That's to be planned. Fair enough. So let's go back to PN,
okay.
Which is recently you guys, in the last by-elections, you have lost the last two by-elections.
Okay.
So is it a worry within the PN bloc that perhaps your race-based rhetoric is no longer appealing to the Malay voters?
Okay, what? You're talking Menenggiri and Makuta. We know both of that is their stronghold. You know that. We expected to not be in that actually. But it's also a good time for reflection. We are actually very engaged to the ground. We recognize that voters now, they are not just looking at those things. Now they're looking at their daily life. They're looking at their economics. They're looking at their healthcare. They're looking at their educations. And in PN, I think now we are all synergizing. We are finding ways to adapt to this. and trying to exact new policies, new ideas, and new dialogue without abandoning our principles and ways to champion our community.
Understand. But I've always wondered because as a member of the PN bloc, right? What are you? I mean, do you ever think that okay, maybe this coalition is they are sort of like a one-trick pony, where the only thing that they sort of use is racial-based rhetoric, because that's the only thing we hear coming out from that side.
That's not true. That's basically the propaganda that PH throws on PN. But let's be honest, man. They have the same racist people over there.
Yeah, that's what I've heard as well.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's not true. We do have good policies. We do have good thought leaders. We do have good grassroots members as well. We were in government before this, right? We have ministers. We have prime ministers candidates as well. And I think just to say that we are race-based, I think that's not true.
Okay, fair enough. Now, I want to go to MIPP now.
Okay. Oh, wow. hot questions, man.
So, your president, Mr. Punithan, has said recently that the Indian community doesn't need temporary or ad hoc solutions. We need permanent, realistic development agendas. So, as the head of communications, what are the development agendas that MIPP would like to see implemented for the benefit of the Indian people?
Okay. I wholeheartedly agree with my MIPP president, Mr. Punithan.
Okay.
Brother Vinod, we can't slap a plaster on a 67-year-old cancer.
Of course.
And hope to fix the issue in one night. We need a systematic, permanent solution. Like I told you earlier, first one is that we need to have a blueprint, right? We need to get this executed so that it is in place to coordinate our growth from point A to point B that we want to go after this. Then, like I say, we need to get our fundings right? We need to have the proper amount of fundings. Yeah. 100 million doesn't cut it anymore. I'll say this, whether PH is in government or in the future PN is going to be in the government. I'm going to say this. The 100 million is not going to cut it. It's not going to cut it, right? And the third thing, we need the right pilot.
Of course.
Right? MIPP is working on all these three. The blueprint, on fighting for this allocation as well, and also getting the right leaders in to basically in the future, if and when we come to power, we have these things ready to roll out.
Okay. Now, one thing, I think one of the highlight statements that were uttered by Mr. Punithan was, of course, that he once said that he had a plan for the Indians that would come to fruition in 2057. Why 2057? Are we going to have to wait 33 years? No, 23 years, sorry. Correct, yeah, 33 years, sorry, to see this plan.
You know, I think they didn't really express him properly, all right? He was telling that he has a long-term plan for the Indians, right? That's what he meant. But it doesn't mean that there's not going to be any changes that are going to happen from now to then. He has short-term, mid-term, and also long-term plans. So, like I told you earlier, the blueprint that we are looking to bring forward as part of PN Manifesto in the future as well is going to have that short-term, long-term, and mid-term. So don't worry. It's not that Indians can only look forward to change, say, when we are 75 years old. No. We will be able to see ideas and policies and new improvement taking place quickly when we come in power.
Hopefully, definitely. Now, obviously, every Indian voter, I think deep down inside, we want to see proper representation. That's what we need, because that's been lacking, right? Ever since from the MIC days and all that, we've really seen that lacking. Now, I want to get your thought in this. When we know that your president was an ex-MIC member and all that, can we expect something different?
Of course.
And if yes, then what's the difference?
It's the thing. If we are just trying to be the same old, I don't think so. We will have created this party. I think if you really see this party, this is a very young party, led by very young people as well. Also professionals who understand the nature, the need of the community. I will say that yes, over time you will see that we will put out our policies, our plans. It's too early right now because we still have about 2 years to go before the next election. But in the next 1 year or 2 years, we will start to formulate our ideas and policy out to the public, and we market what we plan to do for the Indian market. For now though, we can't wait. If we come when we are going to come in power. So what we're doing right now is that we are currently talking and discussing and giving ideas on how to fix ideas and that's given by current leaders. Why? It's very simple. I'm afraid if we don't do something right now to at least mend some issues, it might be too late by the time we come in power.
Definitely.
So that's what we're doing right now. But we are working together right now in public and also in private with current leaders. But we are also coming up with plans for us one day when we come in power. Simple as that.
Another highlight statement that was uttered by a president, which was he actually mooted the idea of forming an Indian coalition. And Ivan, I've spoken about this. You have spoken about this on your channel as well.
Yep.
Has this plan failed? And if is it in the works, or why can't we see a proper coalition being announced among the Indian parties?
We are, as you know, when MIPP came into place, the first thing that we did was we wanted to get a lot of Indian parties to come together, sit down, discuss the Indian issues. I think we have some support, like I told you, from Urme and DHPP, we from Bersekutu, and we had the discussion. Will I say that we got it from every other leaders from especially from the government? No, not really.
Of course.
When it comes to Indian issues, for some reason they tend to be very factional, which I think is not the right way to go. I think the right way is, doesn't matter which side you sit on. When it comes to Indian needs and Indian vision, we all should come together and sit down and figure out what and where we want to bring the community, right? So that's what we're trying to do. And we are still having this open invitation for all of them to come together on the table to sit down. Let's see if they make it.
Okay. But, I mean, just to go back to MIPP, what are some of the key issues that your party have spotted as the key problems with the Indian community?
What are the key issues?
Yeah.
First one is always on how we're going to deal with the Indians. There's multiple pillars that we have to look at. First one is obviously education. Second one is economics, right? Third one is employment for our youth. So let's go one by one.
Yeah.
Education. Like I told you earlier, our Tamil schools are in disarray. Our Tamil schools still look like it was built in 1950s, even to this very day. Some of the schools have all this lantai. No, they don't have tables. I think the other day one of the school actually asked me for a board. This is 2024, so we have to fix that. And there's also reducing number of intakes, student intakes in our school. So we have to somehow figure out a pathway to bring in our students from preschool all the way up to primary. But after they finish primary, there's no pathway beyond that to secondary, even tertiary. All right, some people might say, look, tertiary there is what? There's AIMS. But go and look at AIMS today. It's made mainly of other people, not really Indians. We need a pathway from preschool all the way up to tertiary. Like how the Malays have it, right? The Chinese have it. The Indians need one as well. The Indians need one as well. There's nothing racist about this. It is just giving us a pathway.
Yeah, definitely. We are talking about Indian problems.
Indian
not
problems,
racist,
right? Next one, our youth. Many of them come into the market and they are very unskilled. Some of them left school too early. So for those who left school too early, put them in TVETs. Those who can and studied very well, give them scholarships. Not just in Malaysia, send them abroad. Give them exposures. Let them come back to contribute back to the community. So we have to do all these kind of things as well. Third one is basically on entrepreneurs. Malaysia is becoming the next big data center hub, right? It's happening in Johor. Yeah. Can we build something for Indians over there? Man, Indians are well known for IT. We have a good pool of talents here. Can we get this pool of talent reskilled, upskilled, so that they can be part of that pie as well? So that's what we need to look at. Give them grants, give them business incubators, give them training, get business set up, get partnerships in. get them to build jobs, get them to give access to Indians as well. That's where I'm looking at.
Definitely.
The third one is basically welfare. A lot of Indians are still sick. I think Mitra's big chunk of money goes for welfare. Do you know that?
Yeah.
Dialysis and whatnot.
They're very welfare oriented.
So it's supposed to be transformation, but it's not. But I think we still need to have a budget for to taking care of people who are sick and needy. So we need to have that. So these are all the different pillars that I'm currently looking at, and we're trying to see how we can basically come up with ideas to fix this.
You know, I mean, just from the top of my head, you know, there was this experiment that was conducted, whereby they took a bunch of fleas and put it into a container. I think you can see it online. It's quite popular on social media. And they covered that container. So the fleas will never, because of the barrier, the fleas know that is the container. Now, interestingly enough, when they removed that container cap, the fleas never came out. They never came out from that what they thought was a barrier there.
The ceiling.
The ceiling, right?
Yeah.
Now, in my experience with the Indian youth, when I was used to work with EWRF and the Amma Foundation and all that, what I noticed is that the Indian youth in Malaysia have a false perception of who they are, especially the B40. Even in the M40s, I've seen many Indians like that. They are insecure about themselves because they feel, because you're like what you said, it's a 67-year issue, right? From the time, as far as I can remember, either they hear Indians complaining about the government doesn't care for them, or they hear Indians saying that Indians are not good, they are gangsters, they won't do this, they won't do that. When the truth is, there are a lot of successful Indians, people such as yourself, okay, who have made a mark for yourself in Malaysia, okay? Do you think that leaders like yourself, YB Saraswati, even I include in this pool, who oftentimes point out the problems only, do you think that your rhetoric is also part of the problem? That the problem with these Indian kids is not that they don't have the opportunity, but they don't believe enough in themselves to get that opportunity? Okay,
good point. Prior to this, Vinod, right? We spoke all of this in Tamil, and it's always been revolving in the community, the Indian community. You know about this. Your parents know about this. Your neighbors, whatnot. All Indians know about this issue. But truthfully, I do not think this message went to the leaders, the government leaders, who are mostly Malays, mostly Chinese, who didn't understand this. That's why I started to advocate and speak about Indian issues in Malay, because I want them to hear about our issues. I want them to understand that we have this problem going, this neglect going. Like you said just now, this systematic neglect over the years is what has created this invisible ceiling for us.
Yeah.
And we have to break it for them. I will tell you, I got lucky that I managed to came up from an estate to where am I today. But that is not the same for many other people.
Correct.
Now, as a good leader, you are not just supposed to be outspoken about it, you're supposed to bring them out together as well. Right now, where at the chair that I'm currently sitting, I can speak about things. I'm doing small things on a small scale, but I can currently speak about this with the hope that Indian leaders or even the Malay leaders in the government take notice and do interventions. If they don't do interventions, trust me, they will not be in the government in the future. And somebody else will come in with better policies and better ideas to take them out. I'm very sure about that.
But again, I mean, Malay leaders and Chinese leaders have shown, even Indian leaders currently, I would say the Indian leaders in the PH block are more of part of like, they are more like the backbenchers.
Okay.
They are more like the supporters club.
Okay.
In Parliament, you hear them,
Clap, clap.
Yeah.
Quiet.
In Parliament, you can see Reyes stand up, IB Reyes stand up, Bagos, and I'm like, what are you talking about, man?
Yeah.
Even just today, before this podcast, I was watching a clip from Datuk Saravanan who was talking about how great Najib was, and I was like, okay, are we forgetting about 1MDB? But okay, never mind. Yes, he did. Anyway, that's a different topic, but okay. I guess everybody is free to their opinion. But my point is that, do you think the Indian youth will be better served if MIPP or even yourself, because you are, obviously your platform is bigger than MIPP, right? You have your social media presence, which is much bigger. Do you think that they will be better served if they hear success stories of Indians that they see their brother and sisters who are the same people doing well. They think, hey, if he can do it, why can't I? Don't you think it's better that way? As opposed to us always talking about the problem, and then we only focus on the problem.
It is not. Okay, so my TikTok is not just meant to speak about problems.
Yeah.
Right? First, we need to address the problem. We have to understand and agree that this is a problem.
Correct.
Next is to think about solutions. I think if you notice most of my videos nowadays, I'm talking about solutions. Like, for example, the blueprint.
Yeah.
Asking for more fundings and all these kind of things. Later on, you start to see me advocating for implementations. Right? Go out there, fix schools, get some programs for welfare, get some incubators to come in and help Indians for entrepreneurs and upskill our youth. We'll get there. As part of what we're doing in MIPP, we are doing this. We want people to understand what the issue is. I want them to understand what can be the solution. And in the future, I want to see them seeing that, hey, look, these guys are currently taking action. They're trying to do something about this. But it takes time, you see. It's a process to go. But if you've seen my videos, I think you can see that we are working on what we're saying.
Definitely. I do agree with that. Now, another sort of criticism I may have of MIPP is that, again, your focus seems to be more on topics that are trending. As opposed to topics that sometimes matter but may not be trending. One clear example is, of course, in the amendments to the recent citizenship bill. That, of course, does nothing to change the status quo of Malaysian-Indian stateless people. Right? I've spoken to a few stateless people who, some of them don't even have IC, only birth cert and all that. Why are you quiet about issues like this?
Yeah. So that's not true.
Okay.
That's not true. Right? I'm not just on TikTok.
Understand.
But I'm very visible there, but I'm not just on TikTok. I actually speak about many things on Twitter as well, X right now. I even write op-eds on or give opinions on Quora, on many other topics. In fact, every other topics that we see. For example, the statelessness, I have given my inputs on that. In fact, I even watch for some PH supporters who are fighting for this, because I believe a matter of statelessness is something that we have to work together, right? So it's that. Not just me, many other leaders as well. Many other leaders as well. It is just that maybe, perhaps on myself, I'm just a bit too outspoken sometimes, so people just see me as the person. But I'm telling you, our president, Mr. Punithan, is speaking about it. Brother Subra is speaking about it. Many other leaders who are sitting in different states are speaking about it in all their own channels, Facebook, Twitter. Some people are even going to the grassroots to go and meet our youths there. So it's not just about being seen, brother. It's about the work that we're doing. It's there, don't worry.
Fair enough. And we are happy to hear that. So, I mean, I want to wrap it up with like this, because obviously, like what we discussed before this podcast, we talked about how for a while we touched on the KKB by-elections, right? And I told you that when they did an on-ground interview with a lot of voters, the Indian voters said that they will vote for PH only because of the handouts, nothing else. Nothing else. That's the only reason why, okay? And of course, PH over the I wouldn't say PH, but the Madani government has been very popular with handouts in the past elections.
Definitely. Yeah.
So
they're getting very good at that.
Very good at that. Yeah, very good. Now, if you read the book, The Malaysian-Indian Dilemma, which is a powerful book, I recommend all of you all to read it. If you all are Indians, if you all are passionate about Indian issues, read that book. Now, it is detailed from the start of independence up to now, what MIC has done. All the projects, the campaigns they came up with, the cooperacies and all that kind of stuff. Now, over the decades, we Indian voters have become accustomed to initiatives that sound good, that have the potential to be good, but eventually die down because of mismanagement, corruption and all that. That was the key thought about Mitra and many of our leaders, okay? They for some reason, that stigma follows them. Whether deserving or not is a different topic, but it follows them. So when a party as big as MIC, with the grassroots infrastructure they have, they failed, okay? And I'm talking they failed based on the response of the voters to them, not the party per se. Why should we trust MIPP?
Now, we must understand why It's a very, very loaded question, to be honest with you. Yeah, I understand people are very cautious after being taken for a ride for so many years. Then we had Anwar back then, who promises songs and dances and a lot of ideas.
The Indian MGR.
And the Indian MGR. Then when he came into power, we noticed that he's actually a Nambiar, right? Then suddenly a new party came up, MIPP. And now these young leaders are talking on TikToks, on videos, giving speeches, and people are promising new things. Can we trust that? Here's the thing. That's why I think my president, Mr. Punithan, always say, talk less, work more. He wants us to work quietly on ground, work on the policies. Then when the time is right, then you present it to the people. I think the problem with us Indians, right? We try to cakap banyak. We always, before it's even ready, we already started to make it grand. And things then take a turn to disaster. That's not what we're trying to do. We are taking a very systematic approach on how we're going to approach the issues of Indians and how we're going to fix that. We are not giving them false promises. We are not giving them grand ideas as well. We are just saying, look, the Indians requires a blueprint, requires the right amount of funding, and requires the right talents. We are going to figure these 3 things out before the next election. That's it. Then it's for the people to decide which is the right component or right party to vote for. I hope when we present our ideas and our manifestos and what we want to do for Indians, then our people will see to it that we have our intention is set to help them. That's it.
Okay.
We let the rakyat decide that.
Now, I mean, it cannot be denied that you are one of the leaders that have come into the center stage. You are now under the limelight because of your work, of what you have. You're very outspoken. But to be honest, as a voter, from a voter's perspective, I would like my leaders to be more vocal, not quiet. Because I remember when I interviewed Dato Kamarnathan, and he was telling me, oh, he did this, he did that, he talked about preschools. And I asked him, I said, why wasn't any of this told to us? You know, why didn't you say you did all of this to us, and which would have helped MIC in the elections? You all were quiet. And then he said, no, sometimes they feel a bit embarrassed to blow their trumpet. But I said, no, we are voters. We need to know what you're doing. But anyway, as a new leader, new Indian leader who is now popular, and which is a good thing. I'm not saying that you need to be popular. People need to know you, right? What can we expect from you? What is your vision for the Indian people?
Before the next GE, we want to build a framework for Indians. Again, I'm going to go back to the same thing. The blueprint, amount of funding, the right leaders. And then how we're going to bring this to the people at grassroots levels. That means we are building leaders from Ranting to Cawangan to Bahagian, everywhere. And having all this ready before the election. Not after the election, not when you're sitting on the chair, then you're starting to formulate. No, plan this out before. So that's what we're currently doing right now. We are currently going out there, talking to leaders, thought leaders, politicians, economists, statisticians, every single one of them, trying to get their input. Do we need to update the blueprint that we currently have? Do we then need to get the mandate from the committee? What we want to look forward to doing after this? What should be the timeline? Then what should be the funding for this? Like I spoken to you earlier, we need 2 to 3 billions. What can be the amount that we can get from the government? Can we get this from the block that we are currently working with? All these questions needs answers. So I am trying to see we get these answers before the election and have this ready to be presented to the people when it's time. So that's what you're going to see from me, and hopefully through my TikTok and other platforms as well. You can also see me talk about other things on other platforms. So maybe go there.
Definitely. So thank you so much, Suthan, for coming on. It's been a pleasure. I enjoyed your talking to you. I would love to see you back on again. Maybe closer to the GE. Maybe you can pay us a visit and share your ideas with MIPP.
Definitely.
Thank you, brother. And that's all we have for you all today, folks. It was a pleasure speaking to Suthan from MIPP, a party that I hope really does what they aim to do. And we, of course, as Indian voters, we would like to see nothing more than a party that represents us, because God knows that has not been happening for a while now. So till next time, please, as always, like, share, subscribe. And if you guys want to have any questions to Mr. Suthan, please share in the comments. We'll share it to him. And hopefully he can address your queries on his own channel on TikTok. Check him out on TikTok, guys. It's really entertaining. You'll love it. I love it. I'm a follower and I love his content. So we'll see you all next time. Bye.